Good morning, everybody. I just want to put a short video out here this morning before I go to bed. Uh, First of all, I want to say I'm not targeting anybody. I've sent this to everybody through private message. If you don't want to watch it, I understand, but you'll be missing out on some important information that we need to address here in Indiana. In Indiana, it is here. What is here? Critical race theory and comprehensive sex education. Now, I'm a simple man. I had to look up what comprehensive was, and it means complete. A complete sex education course. Third graders are being taught how to do mutual masturbation. Third graders, fifth graders are being taught about anal sex. If you can't, as a parent, and you don't have a problem with this, I feel sorry for you. So, I'm not trying to degrade anybody or scold anybody. I'm just giving some information, and then you people can do what you want with it. But parents and grandparents, if we don't address this and get involved, we're done. We're done. So first, Hamilton Southeastern, Carmel Clay schools, and Brownsburg schools have all hired diversity, equity, and inclusion officers. Now, those three words are like the holy trinity of critical race theory: diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, but as I was doing research on these schools, they're all saying we're not teaching critical race theory. Well, let me read you something. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. I mean, they picked up this story in Hamilton Southeastern. A public school district outside Indianapolis claims racial division is embedded in the fabric of the United States and endorsed Black Lives Matter movement in the wake of Derek Chauvin's conviction. They sent out an email to parents containing tips for coping with trauma and links to racial equity resources for children. Yes, that's another important word, key word you need to listen for: equity. It's not equality, it's equity. Very good, very important word to keep your attention on. The email, which did not mention Floyd, claimed that all students benefit from anti-racism education, but yet they're not teaching critical race theory. You gotta be careful. They're just using different terms. It's the same thing. Anti-racism education, critical race theory, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We commit to turning the mirror inward and advancing an anti-racist and equity-based learning community, the district affirmed in the email, a copy of which was obtained by the Washington Free Beacon. But they say they're not teaching critical race theory. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Schools across the United States capitalized on Floyd's death to implement anti-racist practices in the classroom. State education boards in North Carolina and Illinois February adopted radical learning standards, the latter of which asked teachers to mitigate their unearned privilege. Yes, white people are privileged. This week, the Biden administration on Monday proposed a rule that would dole out Education Department grant money to education groups that develop anti-racist American history and civics curriculum. Do you know your school board members? Have you been to a school board meeting? If you have children or grandchildren, to see what's going on in your school? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just passing along information. But I feel, my opinion is, it's very important that parents and grandparents get involved with the school and the school board to find out what's going on. My opinion. I've been told I don't have a horse in the race. I don't either. I don't have a horse in the race either. But we can still do things. Just because we don't have children, we can do things. We can write our legislators, state legislators, and encourage them to pass anti-critical race theory teaching in schools. They can ban it. States have done it. Tennessee has done it. Texas is in the middle of doing it. It can be done. Sure, there'll be all kinds of lawsuits, but I'd rather go through a lawsuit than not do anything at all. Another thing is comprehensive sex education. Very important to pay attention to. Very important. There's all kinds of stuff. You can Google critical race theory. Some of it is very watered down to make it sound positive. Oh yes, we can learn from this and blah blah blah. The bottom line, critical race theory is nothing but white people are bad, white people are the oppressors, and people of color are the oppressed. Two other couple words you need to keep in mind. Karl Marx, in his Communist Manifesto, talks about the oppressed and the oppressor. It's a basic tenet of critical race theory. I just want to close here with one thing here. A soundbite from the Mock and Rob show on WIBC. This is a parent talking to a school board at the Carmel in the Carmel school board meeting. This is what she had to say.
Control quite polarizing topics, I might add. Each topic had research links to form the children's opinions to then be able to write. Every single link led to a left-wing source. My son was so worried that he would get a bad grade if his paper didn't line up with the clear ideology of the teacher that he wrote her an email. He wanted to make sure the assignment was getting the grade and not the worldview. It should not be like this. And I'm growing more concerned that in the wake of our liberal progressivism, that critical race theory is next. If there is a racist law or a racist practice, I'll be the first to stand by you and oppose it and champion the tearing down of such a thing. But those don't exist anymore. Our institutions are not racist. If we're wrought with racism, we never would have had a black president, a black vice president, or a black Supreme Court justice. Currently, more than a third of America's top 100 cities are governed by African Americans. A CNN headline from just 6 days ago read, "Black women are gaining political power in U.S. cities." Today, there are 3 Black senators and 57 Black Congress members in office, which makes the 117th Congress the most racially and ethnically diverse ever. And that is something to be celebrated. And I think we all think that's a good thing. Our country has recognized the sins of our past through constitutional amendments and has instituted programs to help reconcile the wrongdoing. Affirmative action, SBCU funding, and government contracts to minority-owned businesses, to name a few. Also, African Americans are not underrepresented in community positions of power like law enforcement. Facts cannot be ignored. This ideology that white people are born as racist oppressors and Black people are born as our victims is not true. If it were, Africans, Jamaicans, Haitians, etc. would not be immigrating here by the millions. They wouldn't choose to live in a country designed to tear them down. Critical race theory is not based in facts, and it's not simply revising history to give kids another perspective. No, it is a movement based in Marxism, designed to tear down our country from within so it can be rebuilt on Marxist principles. That's the end game, and that is why we cannot have it in our schools.
There you go. I love it. Parents standing up. She sounds like she's done her homework. I encourage you guys to learn all you can on critical race theory and the Marxist agenda behind it. Because if we don't, it's bad enough the socialist communist agenda they've already slowly have been implementing in our country so far. So I encourage you, get involved, find out what your kids are learning, because it's not very good.